Imagine someone offers you $1 million. No catch, no scam, no impossible conditions, just $1 million. Most people wouldn't even need a second to think. They'd say yes. But now imagine something strange. You already have enough money. Your bills are covered. Your family is secure. You don't need the money. And suddenly, that $1 million offer doesn't look nearly as attractive. You might say no. And this is where something fascinating happens. Because when people become wealthy, they don't simply gain more money. They gain something far more powerful, the ability to walk away. And that changes the way they negotiate, the way they take risks, the way they choose opportunities, and sometimes the way they look at money itself. Because the biggest advantage of wealth may not be having more options. It may be never being forced to take the wrong one. Part 1. The $1 Million Trap. There's a psychological difference between wanting an opportunity and needing it. Imagine two people are offered the exact same business deal. Both can potentially make $500,000. Person A needs the money. Their mortgage is expensive. Their savings are running low. Their business is struggling. They look at the deal and immediately start thinking about what the money could fix. The second person doesn't need it. They already have enough income, enough savings, enough alternatives, so they look at the exact same deal and ask a completely different question. Not, how much can I make? But, is this actually worth doing? That's a completely different decision, because when you desperately need an outcome, the outcome starts controlling you. You become more willing to tolerate bad terms, bad partners, bad timing, bad opportunities, anything that gets you closer to the result you need. And that's one of the hidden effects of scarcity. Research has found that financial scarcity can influence how people evaluate immediate versus future outcomes. When the future feels uncertain, the present can become incredibly powerful. That makes sense. If you're worried about tomorrow's bills, maybe this will pay off in 5 years. Doesn't feel nearly as attractive as, here's money right now. But once you no longer feel trapped by the immediate problem, your decision-making space changes. You can wait. You can negotiate. You can investigate. You can say, no. And that's where wealth starts producing an advantage that has almost nothing to do with money itself. Part 2. The power of walking away. Think about a negotiation. Two people sit across a table. One desperately wants the deal. The other doesn't care whether the deal happens. Who has more power? Not necessarily the person with more money. The person with the better alternative. Because the strongest negotiating position isn't, give me what I want. It's, if you don't, I'll leave. That changes everything. Suddenly, the other side has to convince you, not the other way around. This is why wealthy people can sometimes appear unusually selective. They don't necessarily accept every profitable opportunity. They can wait for better terms. They can reject partnerships. They can delay purchases. They can walk away from investments. Not because every opportunity is bad, but because accepting a mediocre opportunity can prevent them from taking a much better one later. And this creates a subtle difference. Most people ask, can I afford this? A wealthy decision maker can ask, what am I giving up by choosing this? That's a completely different calculation, because every yes consumes something. Money, time, attention, reputation, relationships, energy, future opportunities. So saying yes isn't free. It has an opportunity cost. And when you have many possible paths, choosing one means closing some others. That's why the ability to wait becomes powerful. You don't need to grab the first door that opens when you know another door might open tomorrow. Part 3. When you don't need the deal. Now imagine something even more interesting. You're negotiating with someone who desperately wants your approval. They need the contract. They need the investor. They need the partnership. They need the sale. You don't. You can walk away. That changes the emotional balance of the entire conversation. And this is where wealth can create a psychological advantage. Not because wealthy people are automatically smarter. Not because they're automatically better negotiators. But because financial independence can reduce desperation. And desperation is expensive. It can make people accept terrible terms. It can make them chase opportunities that don't fit. It can make them hold on to failing ideas simply because they've already invested so much. And it can make them confuse movement with progress. Think about a person who spends 6 months chasing one opportunity. They've already invested time, energy, money, emotion. So when the opportunity starts looking bad, they don't want to leave. They think, I've already come this far. Someone with alternatives can say, this isn't working, let's move on. That sounds simple, but psychologically, it's incredibly difficult because humans hate losing what they've already invested. And sometimes the most expensive decision isn't choosing the wrong opportunity, it's refusing to leave it. That's why having alternatives can be so valuable. If one door closes, you don't panic. You look for another. If one client leaves, you don't collapse. You replace them. If one investment fails, your entire future doesn't depend on recovering it. The point isn't that wealthy people never lose, they absolutely do. The difference is that one loss doesn't necessarily force the next decision, and that's the real advantage. They can absorb the consequences of saying no. Part 4. The ultimate luxury choice. This brings us to the strangest definition of wealth. Most people think wealth means a bigger house, a better car, more expensive vacations, a larger bank account. But there's another definition. Wealth is the ability to choose without desperation, to choose where you live, who you work with, which opportunities you accept, which opportunities you reject, when you leave, when you wait, and sometimes whether you participate at all. That's why the most interesting thing about money isn't what it can buy. It's what it can allow you to refuse. You can refuse the job you hate, refuse the business partner you don't trust, refuse the deal with terrible conditions, refuse the lifestyle that requires you to constantly impress people, and even refuse money when the price of earning it is too high. That is a completely different relationship with wealth. And here's the twist. You don't need millions of dollars to begin developing this mindset. You can start much earlier. Build skills that give you alternatives. Don't depend entirely on one source of income. Learn to negotiate. Keep some financial breathing room. Don't make every decision from panic. And most importantly, stop believing that every opportunity must be accepted. Because sometimes the most valuable word in your financial life isn't yes, it's no. When you can say no without fear, you start making decisions for the future instead of reacting to the present. And maybe that's what money really buys. Not more things, not more status, not even more comfort, more choices, and eventually, the freedom to walk away. If this video made you think differently about what wealth really means, then CultNexis is exactly where you belong. This is CultNexis. We explore the hidden psychology behind money, wealth, power, and human behavior, breaking down what most people never notice. So you don't just watch, you understand. If you want to see how the world really works, you're in the right place. Subscribe and explore the unknown.